All right, so in this video, I'm going to run through some of the essential terminal commands for navigation, for moving around on your machine. We need this in order to work with Git. If you already know these commands, things like ls and pwd and cd, if you know those commands, feel free to skip this, of course. But if you don't, I'm going to run through this quickly, but also I recommend you take some time to practice and just keep a reference or a cheat sheet up that you can look back at, because I'll be using a lot of these commands throughout the course, but nothing super difficult, I promise. The hardest part is just remembering them. Okay, so I've got my Mac window here. I've got my terminal open, just a terminal app on Mac. So if you're following along with a Mac, you'll look at this screen, and then occasionally when there is a small deviation or difference on a Windows machine, here is my Windows terminal. This is the bash or git bash shell that I've opened up. So if you installed that on a Windows machine, it will look something like this. So the first command we'll talk about is called ls. It is short for list the contents of a folder or of the current directory. So if you type ls into your terminal and you hit enter, wherever you currently are, and we haven't learned how to move yet, so we'll talk about where we currently are. Wherever that location is, we will see the contents printed out. So in this case, I'm in a folder that contains some JavaScript files, a HTML file, a CSS file, a llamas Python file, a folder called secret. That is what's printed out, at least in this slide. So if I try it over here, this is a brand new terminal window. I just made a new tab. I haven't moved. I haven't talked about moving. Where am I? Well, I'm at a location called the home directory, and it's abbreviated, or it's symbolized by this tilde character. You can find that above a tab key on most keyboards. Anyway, my home directory contains a lot of things. If I hit ls, you won't see all of these. Some of them are standard on a Mac, like applications, desktop, documents, downloads, public, pictures. Some of them are my folders I've made, like, Git demo, Git stuff. What else? Pets, terminal demo. Those are my folders I've made. Anyway, you'll see something, right? You'll see contents of your home directory. And if you're on a Windows machine, we can do the same thing using git bash. So ls. Now I see different things because there are different files and folders on a Windows machine, but I'm in the same location on this Windows machine, tilde, that is my home directory. All right, so we can't move right now. We're just simply looking at files and folders in one location, and I'm going to show you a command that I don't have a slide for. On a Mac, the command is open. If we type open dot, it's actually going to open up in Finder on a Mac. The file explorer is called Finder, the same directory where I currently am. So this is my home directory. And if you've never used a terminal, you're probably familiar with this sort of navigation, right? If I want to look at my courses folder, I double click. If I want to go back, I click the back arrow. That's kind of the basic navigation without the terminal. Now, if I'm on a Windows machine, the open command actually does not work. It tells me command not found. But instead, I can do start dot. This is really the one major difference I can think of so far. And then this opens up the Windows equivalent of Finder. I think it's called File. Is it File Explorer? I'm not much of a Windows user. Anyway, probably shouldn't admit that. You can see the folders and files that are listed here. So we've got pictures as an example. And if I do start dot, I can see, all right, here's the pictures folder. We have videos. There's a videos folder there. So all of those things that we see represented here are also here. It's just two different ways of interacting or viewing the contents of this folder. All right, so that's ls on its own, just ls, nothing afterwards. You hit enter, and it shows us what is in the current directory. But I can also use ls on a folder. So I could say, what's inside this pets folder? And all I need to do is reference the path. So the name, in this case, is pets, so ls pets. And that's what's inside that pets folder. And I can actually open that folder too if I just do open pets. And it opened on my other screen. Let me drag this up. There we are. You can see those contents, cats, chickens, hamsters, and so on. All right, I'll do that on a Windows machine as well. Let's say I want to know what is inside of this Git course directory. So I can do ls Git, and I need to spell it correctly, but I can also hit tab to autocomplete. And it looks like it's an empty directory. Well, that's my fault for picking that one. Let's try another one. How about what is in git stuff? I don't know. I don't remember making that, but we'll try ls git stuff. Okay, there's one folder called demo. Not very exciting, but hopefully you get the idea here. We can use ls with nothing afterwards. Also, there's a command called clear. I'll just show because I'll be using this. It kind of annoys me when I have a lot of stuff in my terminal. So that goes away. So that has nothing to do with navigation. So as I was saying, ls on its own will list the contents of our current directory. ls followed by the name of a directory. Like I could do pets, as I've shown you. I see the files in pets. It's a bunch of folders actually. And if I wanted to look at, let's say, the goats directory, or how about the cats directory? I can't do ls cats because there is no cats directory where I currently am. Remember, this is what I see, right? I currently am viewing, or I'm inside this home directory. That's what I see when I type ls. I have to type out the path to access cats. It's inside of pets. So it's actually this, ls pets/cats. And there we are. It's one of my cats. Her name is Blue Steel. And that's all I'll show you with ls. We can reference these paths where we chain things together. Anyway, the next command I'll show you is pretty simple. It's called pwd for print working directory. And what this will do, it's very simple. It just prints out your current location. It prints out the path to where you currently are. So we haven't been able to move, right? We haven't changed locations yet. We've been able to peek into other folders with ls, but pwd is, if I just type it like that, it's going to give me the exact location where I am right now. So the home directory here is just short. That little tilde is a short way of referencing this location. My user on here is called Colt Steel. That is where I currently am. But if I'm on my Windows machine, it's quite different. It's similar, but it's different because on a Windows machine, we've got this C drive, right? So C/users/Colt Steel. And that's obviously going to be your username. So probably not Colt Steel. So that is where we currently are. If I type pwd, that's my location. And that brings me to our next command, which is cd for change directory. This is how we move around. It's the equivalent, if I do open, it's the equivalent of double clicking on one of these things, right, and moving between folders. I'm now in a different folder. You could think of this is my current directory. Now if I click here, this is my current directory. And if I click in pictures, that's my current directory, and there's one of my chickens, Stevie Chicks. All right, so if I want to change directories from the terminal, which I'll be doing all the time in the course, I use cd followed by the directory that I'm trying to change into. So I often use ls first. What do we have? Let's go into this code directory. You probably don't have that, but you could pick any other folder of yours and cd into it. So cd code. All right, so my prompt changes. It tells me I'm in the code folder. Your prompt will look different, but it likely will reveal to you where you are. But if not, you can always type pwd, and we see, oh, now I'm in users Colt Steel /code. So just to illustrate this, if I were to open the current folder, now I'm in the code folder, not the home directory. And I can continue to move, but first, if I type ls, now we see completely different contents. A lot of stuff in this code folder. This is from one of my other courses. And I could take a look at any of these other locations. How about, CSS intro, 04 CSS intro. So cd 04, and I'm just going to hit tab to autocomplete for me. And if I cd into that, I type pwd, if I can spell it. Notice my working directory, my current location has changed. And if I type ls, we now see the contents. And if I open, this is what we're looking at in Finder. Text properties, CSS intro, and then a zip file right there. Same thing on a Windows machine. If I pick some folder to cd into, how about, I don't really know. I don't have much on here, but let's go into desktop maybe. I'm not sure what's on there. So cd desktop, and I'm going to clear. And now if I type pwd, my working directory, my location has changed. I'm now on my home directory, c/user/coldsteel on a Windows machine /desktop. If I type ls, oh, there's nothing on here. Well, that's underwhelming. And that actually leads me to my next command, which is a variation of cd. cd followed by 2 dots. This is how we move backwards. So remember, I showed you this example in Finder. If I open this up, if I want to cd into this cd, if I want to double click in, and then I decide, I want to go back, I just click the back arrow. But using cd, what we actually can do is cd ... And this will take us back one level, one folder. So we back up. So currently, I'm in this CSS intro folder. This is what's inside of it. If I do cd ... and I type pwd, this is where I am now. That's where I was before. I'm now one level back right here. And I could do it again, cd ... First, let me just show you the contents, all that stuff. cd ... Now I'm back in my home directory. So same thing over here. I'm in the desktop, or I'm on the desktop. There's nothing to look at. It's empty. cd ... And now I'm in my home directory. So that's the very basics of navigation. We'll get more practice in the next video as we talk more about some other commands like making folders and files and deleting folders and files. Along with those commands, we still need to use cd, pwd, and ls all the time. So you'll get practice if you're new to this, but also keep in mind, you're not going to just memorize it and become a terminal genius overnight. It takes time and it feels a little bit clunky when you're starting out. You don't need to feel like an expert before you move on to learn Git. Just make a cheat sheet, some sticky notes to remind yourself of the 5 or 6 commands that we cover, and stick them on your computer and just look at that if needed. Anyway, that's the basics of navigation. We covered ls for list, pwd for print working directory, and cd for change directory. cd ... backs out one folder. And the other thing we did was open. Open ... will open a folder, the current folder that we're looking at. And on a Windows machine, it's start ... Okay,